My wife was sleeping with the one man on earth I hated most. Throwaway because some of my teammates know my name. I'm Daniel 30, and up until recently I thought I was living the dream. I'm a professional athlete, fencing, of all things. Yeah, the sport with the white suits and masks, where you get to stab people, legally, and score points for it. I've been training since I was a kid. My parents, Linda and Mark, poured everything into my career, and for most of my 20s I was one of the top guys in the U.S. 2 years ago, everything derailed. During a practice bout, my main rival Adrian, 31, cocky, talented, and dirty as hell, accidentally stabbed me in the knee with a lunge that everyone watching knew wasn't an accident. It shredded my ligament. I missed Worlds that year, and honestly, I wasn't sure I'd ever come back the same. That's when Sophie, 26, appeared. She just joined the women's team, all energy and beauty, with this way of making everyone laugh. Somehow she noticed me when I was at my lowest. She helped me through rehab, cooked for me, told me I was still a champion even if I never held a blade again. I fell hard. We moved in together within 6 months, married a year later. My family adored her. My sister Claire even called her the best thing to ever happen to you. But looking back now, the first cracks were already there. Sophie hated family dinners, said my mom was too nosy, and that my dad looked at her like she wasn't good enough. She made snide comments about my knee, too. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with fencing, you wouldn't have let some guy cripple you. I laughed it off, told myself it was just stress. I wanted to believe I'd finally found my person. Turns out, she wasn't just not my person, she was sleeping with the one man on earth I hated most. The first year of marriage was fine, I guess. Not amazing, not terrible. Sophie had this way of making me feel like I owed her for being with me. Anytime I thanked her for sticking by me during my rehab, she'd smirk and say, "Yeah, not everyone would have put up with you." At first, I thought it was her sense of humor. But the sarcasm never stopped. Then came the late nights. She started staying after practice to help the younger girls, or going out for team bonding. She'd roll in past midnight, smelling like men's cologne and alcohol, shrugging it off with, "Relax, Danny, not everything's about you." My family noticed before I did. My mom asked me if Sophie was okay, said she seemed distant. My brother Jason flat out said, "Bro, she doesn't look at you the way Claire looks at her husband." I defended her, of course. I kept saying she was stressed with training, that she was still adjusting. But deep down, something in my gut was buzzing. And then, one night after practice, I saw it. Not the whole truth, not yet, but enough to make my stomach twist. One Friday night Sophie said she was going out with the girls after training. No big deal, I thought. I even told her to have fun and not worry about me. But around 10 p.m., I got a text from one of my teammates, Eric. "Yo, thought you should know, just saw Sophie at the Lantern. She wasn't with the girls. She was with Adrian." My chest went cold. Adrian. The same guy who nearly ended my career. I didn't want to believe it. I texted back, "You sure? Could have been someone else?" Eric replied instantly, "I'm staring at them right now, man. They're in a corner booth. It doesn't look like a friendly chat." I tried calling Sophie. Straight to voicemail. Texted her, no reply. When she came home at 1 a.m., her hair was messy, lipstick faded, and she reeked of whiskey. She flopped onto the bed like nothing happened and muttered, "Fun night. You worry too much." I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, every nerve screaming. And the next time, I decided I'd catch her myself. The following Thursday, Sophie said she was staying late to help with drills. My gut told me otherwise. I drove to the training center and parked far enough away not to be noticed. I waited. Around 9:30, I saw her walk out, not in workout clothes, but in a tight dress I'd never seen before, heels clicking on the pavement. She didn't head toward her car. Instead, a black BMW pulled up. Adrian's BMW. She slid into the passenger seat without hesitation, kissed him before the door even shut. I swear I felt something snap inside me. It wasn't just that she was cheating, it was with him. The guy who had tried to erase me from the sport. The guy who smirked when I was carried off the piste 2 years ago with my knee shredded. I followed them to a hotel on the edge of town. Parked across the street and watched as they checked in, laughing like teenagers sneaking out past curfew. I told myself to leave, but I couldn't. I waited in my car, heart pounding, until the blinds in their room lit up. And then I saw it, her silhouette against the curtains, her dress sliding off as Adrian's hands wrapped around her waist. It was like someone had driven a blade straight into my chest. The next morning, Sophie came breezing into the kitchen like nothing happened. Hair still damp from her shower, humming while she poured coffee. I couldn't take it anymore. "Who were you with last night?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. She froze for half a second, barely noticeable, then turned, cup in hand, and smirked. "With the girls, obviously." "Why? You gonna start tracking my phone now?" I stared at her. "Don't lie. I saw you. I followed you to the hotel. With Adrian." Her face shifted from surprise to fury in a heartbeat. "You followed me? Are you serious? That's psycho behavior, Daniel." I slammed my hand on the counter. "Don't turn this around on me. You were with him." "My rival, the guy who tried to end my career, and you're sleeping with him?" She rolled her eyes, sipping her coffee like I was boring her. "You're so dramatic. Adrian didn't try to end your career. You tripped, got injured, and then turned him into your villain because you couldn't handle failing. He's a winner, Daniel. Maybe you should learn something from him." That cut deeper than the injury ever did. When I didn't answer, she leaned in close, voice dripping with venom. "Maybe if you were still a real champion, I wouldn't need someone like him." I swear my hands shook from the effort of not breaking something, or her. After that confrontation, I felt hollow. Her words replayed in my head on loop. "Maybe if you were still a real champion, I wouldn't need someone like him." I barely ate. Barely slept. I'd sit in the dark living room while she moved around the apartment like nothing had happened, texting on her phone with that little smirk she thought I didn't notice. When my mom called to check in, I almost broke down right there. She asked why I sounded so tired, and if Sophie was treating me okay. I lied, told her everything was fine. I couldn't bring myself to admit that the woman my family had welcomed was stabbing me in the back. My sister Claire noticed too. She said, "Dan, you're fading. You don't even look like yourself anymore." She didn't know the half of it. I kept questioning myself. Was Sophie right? Was I washed up? Was Adrian the real champion she wanted? I replayed the injury over and over, wondering if I had somehow let it happen, if that was why she'd picked him over me. The worst part? I still wanted her. Even after seeing her silhouette with him, hearing her venom, part of me wanted the Sophie who used to rub my knee during rehab and tell me I'd come back stronger. But that Sophie was gone. Or maybe she'd never been real. One night, after Sophie stumbled and late again, I just sat there on the couch and watched her drop her heels by the door like she owned the place. Something snapped in me, not rage this time, but clarity. She and Adrian had already taken enough. My knee, my pride, my marriage. I wasn't about to let them take the rest of my life too. I started small. Got back in the gym before sunrise, when she was still asleep. At first my knee screamed at me, every lunge like a knife. But pain felt better than the emptiness. I started journaling too. Not because I'm some enlightened guy, but because I needed to get the poison out of my head. Every entry turned into a mix of strategy notes and revenge fantasies. I also reached out to an old contact, a private investigator who once worked with our fencing federation on doping scandals. I told him I needed everything he could find on Sophie and Adrian. Hotel receipts, messages, pictures. Proof. And then I told myself something I hadn't dared to think since the injury. I'm going to fence again. I'm going to face Adrian, and I'm going to beat him. It wasn't just about medals anymore. It was about showing them both that I wasn't the broken man they thought I was. If Sophie wanted a real champion, she was about to see one. The PI moved faster than I expected. Within a week he'd handed me a folder that felt heavier than steel. Photos of Sophie and Adrian checking into hotels. Copies of text messages where she wrote things like, "He's pathetic now, you're everything he'll never be." Credit card statements showing she'd used my money for their dates. And the worst one, an email draft she must have typed drunk and never sent. "Once he's completely out, we won't have to hide anymore. You were right, he'll never be a champion again." Reading that, I actually laughed. Not the funny kind of laugh, the broken kind where your chest hurts and your hands shake. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I played my part, asked her about her day, cooked her dinner, even massaged her shoulders while she texted who I knew damn well was Adrian. She thought I was blind. Meanwhile, I called in a favor from one of our coaches. There was a fencing gala coming up, fundraisers, sponsors, teammates, press. Adrian was going to be honored for his dedication to the sport. Sophie, of course, was planning to be on his arm. That was where I'd end this. Not in private. Not in whispers. But in front of everyone who thought they'd beaten me. The night of the gala, I wore the sharpest suit I owned. Sophie looked stunning, of course, black dress, red lipstick. But when I looked at her, all I could see was Adrian's hands on her, his smirk when I limped off the piste. The ballroom was packed, coaches, athletes, sponsors, even a few reporters. Adrian worked the room like he owned it, Sophie glued to his side. When our eyes met across the room, he gave me this smug little nod, like he knew he'd already taken everything that mattered. When it was time for speeches, Adrian took the stage. He talked about honor, about sportsmanship, about the brotherhood of fencing. I thought I might choke on my drink. When the applause started, I stood. "Funny thing about honor," I said loud enough that the microphone caught me. "Some people preach it. Others just stab their rivals in the knee and sleep with their wives." The room went dead silent. Adrian froze. Sophie's face drained of color. I pulled the folder from my jacket and laid it on the podium. Photos spilled across the stage. Hotel receipts, messages, pictures of them together. Gasps erupted around the room. "This is what they've been doing behind my back for months," I said. "And this is who you're celebrating tonight." Adrian lunged forward to grab the papers, but one of the coaches held him back. Sophie tried to speak, but the booze drowned her out. For the first time in 2 years, I felt taller than him. The fallout was immediate. By the time I got home that night, the photos from the gala were already online. Adrian's sponsors started pulling out within days. No brand wanted to be associated with a homewrecker, and a guy who'd once been whispered about for dirty tactics on the piste. Teammates who used to laugh at his jokes now kept their distance. One even told me, "We all thought he was an asshole, but this is low, man." Sophie? She went full damage control. She showed up at my apartment 2 days later, mascara streaked, claiming it was just a fling, and that she never stopped loving me. When I didn't answer, she snapped, "You think anyone's going to want you now? You're washed up, Daniel. Adrian is still the future of fencing. You're just a sad story people feel sorry for." But the irony? Adrian's future was crumbling faster than her excuses. The Federation even opened an ethics inquiry, not about their affair. They don't care about personal drama, but about conduct unbecoming of an athlete. Translation: he wasn't untouchable anymore. And Sophie had tied herself to him like an anchor. For the first time since my injury, I felt like I'd gotten a real point on the board. Once the gala dust settled, I called my lawyer. I wasn't going to drag things out. I wanted Sophie out of my life as fast and as cleanly as possible. The PI's evidence made it simple. Photos, messages, receipts. It was airtight proof of infidelity. My lawyer looked at the folder and said, "She doesn't have a leg to stand on. We'll make sure she gets nothing." When Sophie was served, she showed up at my place screaming, "After everything I did for you during rehab, you're just going to throw me away like garbage?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You threw us away the second you climbed into his car." That's when she switched tactics, tears, shaking hands, begging. "I made a mistake, Daniel. Adrian isn't who I thought he was. Please, we can fix this." But I'd heard enough lies. I just handed her the ring box she'd left on the dresser. "Sell it. You're going to need the cash." By the end of the month, the divorce was finalized. She walked away empty-handed. I walked away free. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. With Sophie gone and Adrian's empire cracking, I finally had room to focus on the one thing that had always been mine: fencing. I threw myself into training with a new coach, one who didn't give a damn about my past injury or my personal drama. He just pushed me. Hard. The first few weeks were brutal. My knee ached, my lungs burned, and there were mornings I wanted to stay in bed. But every time I thought about quitting, I remembered Sophie's words. "Maybe if you were still a real champion, I wouldn't need someone like him." That sentence became fuel. I heard it in my head with every lunge, every parry, every drop of sweat hitting the floor. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the broken guy limping through rehab. Not the betrayed husband. Not the shadow of Adrian. Just me, Daniel, blade in hand, back where I belong. My family noticed the change too. My mom said, "You finally look alive again." Claire came to one of my practice sessions and hugged me after, whispering, "That's my brother. That's the fighter I know." For the first time in 2 years, I believed I could face Adrian on the piste again, and win. 6 months after Sophie walked out, I was back on the tournament circuit. My first bout was shaky. I could feel every eye on me, wondering if I was still the injured guy, or if I actually belonged there. But once the mask went on, it was like muscle memory took over. I fought my way through the brackets, point by point, until I saw the name I'd been waiting for: Adrian. Walking onto the piste against him was like walking into a nightmare I'd already lived. He smirked behind his mask, whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Try not to break this time." But I wasn't the same man he'd stabbed in practice 2 years ago. I wasn't broken. I wasn't Sophie's backup plan. I wasn't his shadow. The ref called us to en garde. The bout began. It wasn't pretty, it was war. Every strike felt personal. I could see his frustration when I countered moves he thought I'd never recover from. The crowd roared when I landed a clean touch right on his chest. Final score, 15-13. My victory. When the ref raised my hand, I looked straight at him and said, "That's what a real champion looks like." The arena erupted. For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by the injury or the betrayal. I was just Daniel, the fighter who came back. 2 days after the tournament, after the victory everyone had said I'd never have again, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. It was Sophie. Her voice was syrupy sweet, like she thought she could slip back into my life as if nothing had happened. "Daniel, I saw the match. You were incredible. I always knew you'd come back. Maybe we could." I cut her off. "You always knew. You told me I was washed up. That Adrian was a real champion. Remember?" Silence. Then she tried again. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. "Adrian isn't who I thought he was. He's ruined now. But you're stronger than ever. We could." I actually laughed. Not out of joy, but because it was pathetic. "Sophie, you didn't want me when I was broken. You don't deserve me now that I've rebuilt myself. Go beg Adrian for scraps. Oh wait, he's got nothing left." She started crying, but I hung up. Blocked the number. The circle was complete. She and Adrian had both tried to bury me. Instead, I'd outlived them both in the only arena that mattered. And this time, I didn't just win against Adrian. I won against the ghosts of both of them. Looking back now, I realize Sophie and Adrian did me a twisted kind of favor. Yeah, they broke me for a while. Sophie's betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Adrian's cheap shot stole 2 years of my career. For months I questioned whether I was even worth loving, worth fighting for. But in the end I rebuilt. Stronger. Smarter. Sharper. What I learned? Cheating isn't just about lust, it's about contempt. Sophie didn't just sleep with Adrian, she spit on everything we had. Once someone shows you that kind of contempt, you don't argue with it. You walk away. Revenge doesn't always mean screaming or fists. Sometimes the best revenge is showing up, standing tall, and proving them wrong in front of the world. You're not defined by who betrays you. You're defined by how you rise when the floor drops out from under you. My mom hugged me after my comeback match and said, "They tried to destroy you. Instead, they made you." And that's the truth. So if anyone reading this is going through the same hell, don't waste yourself begging for someone who chose to betray you. Invest in yourself, fight for yourself, and let your victories speak louder than their lies. Because at the end of the day, the sweetest sound in the world is hearing the ref raise your hand and knowing you didn't just win, you survived. Wife cheated with my rival, the same guy who once injured me to ruin my career. I gathered proof, exposed them publicly, divorced her, rebuilt myself, and came back to beat him on the piste. He lost everything, she crawled back, and I walked away stronger than ever. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.